こんにちは。はじめまして。私はKaruma desu. Hey everybody, I am Karma. Welcome to my channel. This channel is really going to be about my learning of the Japanese language. Now, I've spoken a lot of different languages already. But Japanese is something I really wanted to study. And so I actually started to teach my daughter, Lily. Hey, Lily, what would you like to say?
こんにちは、はじめまして。
And so that's my daughter. I decided to start teaching her because honestly, I wanted to learn it. And the best way to learn something, in my opinion, is to do it, but also help someone else learn it as well, to teach it. And I've learned that in pretty much everything that I've done throughout my life. But why, first off, who am I? All right. So my name, again, is Karma Senge, and I started to learn languages, I guess, when I was born. When I was born in Cuba, but I was raised in Florida. And up until the time I was about 5 years old, I didn't really speak any English. I spoke Spanish only. My parents didn't want me to speak English until I got into school, so that I wouldn't forget Spanish, but I did at some point. So, my ear was really attuned to Spanish. My mom, always speaks Spanish, and my whole family, speaks Spanish. So I really got an ear for it, and an ear for the pronunciation of words, how the words flow, the grammatical structure of everything. So when, eventually I did lose Spanish, and I had to relearn Spanish. And I started to learn other languages. I first learned Mandarin Chinese. And then many years ago, I was a Tibetan Buddhist monk. And technically I still am a Tibetan Buddhist monk, although I don't, dress like a monk anymore. And I will actually post a couple of pictures up on the screen for you right now. But I had to learn Tibetan as well. So because I was a Tibetan Buddhist monk, I had to learn Tibetan to speak throughout the monastery, to learn the text, and, everything that I was learning in the monastery, I had to learn. So, that was really kind of the last language I really self-studied. I had help, of course, with relearning my Spanish with my family. And then with Mandarin Chinese and Tibetan, I had to do everything via self-study. And so when I decided I'm going to learn Japanese, I decided, well, I'm just going to, do primarily self-study. And, I've always been astounded by Japan. Just something has always drawn me to Japan. And it's funny because I've been to well more than 100 countries around the world, many of them multiple times. Like I've been to the Philippines 66 times, I think, 67 times. I've been to Russia like 30 times, China about 50 times, and so forth. Like I've gone all around the world, more than 100 countries, and a lot of those many times. But I've never been to Japan. And it's really funny because growing up throughout pretty much my entire life, I wanted nothing else but to go to Japan and live in Japan. Like that was my goal when I was younger. And I guess life got in the way and it just never happened. So now that I have a lot more freedom, time freedom and financial freedom, that I wanted to, eventually go to Japan. So our plan is for next year to actually go to Japan, and kind of dropping hints to my wife like, hey, we should move to Japan. Because I am married now, with a daughter, as you saw. I'd really like to at least have maybe a second house, or, an apartment there or something that, we can go to whenever we want to. But that's kind of, what my aspirations are. And the reason that I'm doing these videos is, one of it is for me, all right, to kind of keep a log of my progress of learning the Japanese language, because right now I've really only been studying for about 2 weeks, and that 2 weeks is if we condense it down time wise, it's probably only been about 2 hours worth of real study, because I work a lot. I work sometimes in excess of 90 hours a week. I run multiple businesses, so that's my primary focus. But I wanted to learn in the way that I kind of learned Mandarin and Tibetan as well. And the way that I did it was with flashcards. And I actually created a whole bunch of flashcards. I started off with hiragana and katakana. And I made these like really simple flashcards, and I know my writing is probably atrocious, for those that are, looking at my kana, being like, what the heck is that? Well, I mean, I know what it is. And when I'm looking at it, I can tell that that's ta and so forth. But I made flashcards, and I like using apps. Don't get me wrong. I use there's a few different apps that I use in different places. One, I use Memrise. I use Memrise a lot. I also use Link as well. And Link I primarily use for being able to recognize the words in kana and put it into sentence structures and so forth. I use Japanese Pod 101. I'm a premium member with them. I think I have like a 2-year subscription with them, something like that. And really those are the 3 apps that I use. But besides that, I like to listen a lot. You'll always see me with my headset in, and I'm always listening to something Japanese, whether it be just a Japanese news or a certain recording, maybe Pimsleur or something like that, or the Asimil Japanese, Easy Japanese, listening to that, or this one random thing that I got. It's Japanese with music to it. So for the past couple of weeks, that's what I've been doing. The kana, both hiragana and katakana, I pretty much learned in like an hour, and did really well learning those. I'm really, really good with flashcards. I've got a pretty decent memory, and so forth. But that's really all I've done. I haven't really done much. So I wanted to get this video done so that we can, I could do more and more videos showing what I'm doing, how I'm learning, and so forth. So I actually have a structure of, how I'm going to learn things. And this is my structure. This is just what I'm doing. This is not necessarily this is what you should do. Like when I was learning Tibetan, Tibetan's a very kind of difficult language to learn. At least it was for me. And the way that I learned, of course, I was in a monastery. So, I had people that spoke Tibetan around me 24/7. So I had that real immersion. And I started off with learning the first 500 words in Tibetan. And I made a rule to myself that I'm not going to speak any English. I will only speak in Tibetan. And if I don't know what to say, I'm just not going to say anything. So that's what I did. But, here, in my home and so forth, and where I live, I need to do things a little bit differently. So the first thing I did was I learned the kana. All right. So I highly recommend that you do the same. If you're going to start learning Japanese, learn kana first. Learn every little bit of hiragana and katakana. It will greatly, greatly help. And then, I'm learning the core 500. So what I've done is I've actually created a system of boxes utilizing the Lightner system. And the Lightner system is pretty much like your standard Memrise or Anki system, just in paper form. So I actually created this box for my daughter. This is my daughter's box for her learning stuff. And we found a whole bunch of these boxes. This is just a single box that I glued 8 of them together. All right. And they have drawers with different flashcards in it. This is for her to learn her spelling because she's 8 and she's homeschooled. So I created that, but I also created one for myself that I'm using for all of my flashcards to learn Japanese. So I'm going to be learning, the core 500. And actually, I'm going to be learning the Core 625. So Fluent Forever has this, awesome word list. I'll post a link down below in the description to their word lists. And so I'm learning the core 625 most commonly used words as per Forever Fluent's list. And so that's the first thing that I'm doing. And then after I learn that, that's when I'll start to start speaking in Japanese, maybe going to like Japanese restaurants and trying to converse. And then there's also a meetup group where I'm at that of speakers that are learning Japanese and people that are at very high level Japanese as well, to be able to communicate with. So after that, I'm pretty good with learning all the core 625 and started speaking. Then I'm really going to get heavily involved in the kanji. I know already probably about 200 kanji, and that's from my studies in China. And when I was learning Mandarin, a lot of them transferred over. Granted, the pronunciation is a little bit different, but I understand the meanings of a lot of it. So that's not too hard for me. But again, I have almost 2,000 more to go. But I'm not going to do that right away. And then I'm going to also study the grammar. And for grammar, I'm going to go over all this in different videos, of course. But what I did was I took kind of a note from Tim Ferriss, in that when he broke down, grammar, and again, I'll post a link below to that video that I watched. He wrote these 13 different sentences that he uses to break down grammar of any language. And that's actually what I did is I wrote it down, and like the apple is red. Ringo wa akai desu. All right. And I know my pronunciation is probably terrible. But I just decided to write it all down, print it out, and just go over it and dissect it and try and figure out grammar, because I actually like learning grammar. I don't think it's necessary to learn grammar to be able to speak. I mean, as we grow up, kids don't understand grammar. My daughter, she's 8 years old. She can speak very well. She's got a pretty good vocabulary. Lily can, if I ask her to spell a word, she'll spell it forwards, and she can easily spell it backwards just the same. But she doesn't know the first thing about grammar. And I don't think it's necessary to be able to speak, but I like learning it. So I'm going to learn it. And that's actually going to be kind of, the last part of what I'm doing this year. So this year's, learn the kana. Core 500, I'll probably learn a whole heck of a lot more than just the 625 from Fluent Forever. But get my pronunciation going, and then studying grammar. And as I'm studying grammar, of course, I will also be memorizing through the Lightner system a lot of vocabulary. So and be speaking a lot, because my goal for this next year, for 2019, is, and I know I started late. I started about a month and a half late in the year in studying Japanese, just because I had some business stuff going on. But for the rest of 2019, my goal is to, when 2020 hits, right, I want to go to Japan, and I want to be able to have whatever length of conversation and so forth the entire time I'm in Japan, to not have to use English at all. Like, that's my goal. Right. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And, I want to take you along for the ride. So that's kind of where I'm going. Let's see. Talked about who I am, why I'm doing the videos, what languages I speak already, why I'm learning Japanese, how I'm going to be learning Japanese, and the apps that I use. So that's pretty much it for this video. I wish you all the best, and I wish you great things on your journey of learning Japanese. And I hope that that you stick with me through this series. If this series goes really well, I'll continue doing videos even when I get into Japan, I will be doing daily vlogs around Japan and showing you Japan and so forth, and teaching you things about what I'm learning about learning the Japanese language. And every language is different. When I learned Mandarin and when I learned Tibetan, they were very, very different. And I had to learn, slightly differently. So that's all I've got for you guys today. I wish you all the best, and we'll see you in the next video. So if you've enjoyed this video, please go ahead, click that thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All right, guys. So until next time, until the next video, peace.